What if everything you believe about justice, leadership, and society is just a shadow on the wall? What if the reality you trust is only part of the story? Today, we're going to uncover Plato's vision of truth and the just life. We'll see how it reflects not just the world around us, but the world inside you. Welcome back to Wonder Habit. In our last two episodes, we explored Socrates' debates on justice and the structure of the city in speech. Today we're going to dive into the final and perhaps the most famous section of Plato's Republic, books 5 through 10. Here we're going to encounter revolutionary ideas about equality, the allegory of the cave, the Philosopher-King, and the justice of the soul itself. By the end of this episode, you'll see why Plato's insights are still challenging today, inspiring, and surprisingly practical. Book 5 shocks Plato's audience and ours alike with ideas about equality and leadership. He argues that women in the guardian class should have the same education and responsibilities as men. In today's terms, think about CEOs, scientists, or politicians. Plato is essentially saying that women are just as capable of leading and thinking wisely as men. He also proposes communal living for guardians. Families are shared, children raised collectively, and personal property is also limited. While this is radical in our view in our modern world, the goal is clear: to reduce conflict of interest and ensure leaders act for the common good. You might compare this to modern debates about wealth, influence, and ethical leadership. When personal gain interferes with public service, society suffers. When personal gain interferes with public service, society suffers. Finally, Plato introduces the Philosopher-King, a ruler who loves wisdom above all else. In modern terms, this is someone like a leader who prioritizes long-term vision over immediate popularity or profit, a stark contrast to leaders who chase headlines or personal gain. Book 6 is all about the Philosopher-King. It really goes more in depth on the Philosopher-King, and Plato emphasizes that ruling requires moral and intellectual cultivation. A true ruler and leader must seek knowledge, not fame or fortune. In today's world, let's think or imagine of leaders who make decisions guided by evidence, ethics, and long-term impact. Scientists shaping parallel to scientists shaping policy or judges interpreting laws with integrity, CEOs balancing profit with social responsibility. Plato's point is clear. Leadership without wisdom is dangerous, and society thrives when leaders are guided by insight and virtue. Otherwise, society is left to suffer. In Book 7, we have the famous allegory of the cave. Book 7 gives us the philosophy. The allegory of the cave is one of philosophy's most famous images. Imagine people chained in darkness, only seeing shadows. These shadows are their entire reality. When one of these people who are chained in the cave escapes, the sunlight and colors overwhelm him or her. Suddenly, this ex-prisoner sees the truth. The shadows on the wall were just an illusion. Plato's metaphor is timeless. Today's world, social media, fake news, personal biases, these are our modern shadows. How often do we mistake appearances for reality? Basically, the lesson is stepping out of the cave is difficult and sometimes uncomfortable. Learning, questioning, and reflecting are acts of courage. Philosophy is the practice of facing the light, even when it hurts. All in the name of seeing the world and ourselves clearly and honestly. In Book 8, Plato examines how societies and the soul of individuals decline when reason is no longer in charge. It's either just the desire or the seeking of power. Plato traces the fall of political systems. Aristocracy becomes timocracy, then oligarchy, democracy, and finally tyranny. Each of these stages reflects imbalance, greed, ambition, excess, or fear. This isn't just political theory. It mirrors human behavior. When we let impulses dominate reason, and when short-term gains outweigh ethical choices, chaos follows. Plato reminds us that societal decay is a reflection of personal decay. Our collective ethics and decisions shape the world around us. And that collective of ethics and decisions is made up of individual ethics and decisions. Following up all of that is Book 9, which focuses on the tyrannical soul. The tyrannical soul is enslaved by unchecked desire and fear. Plato contrasts this with the just soul, where reason guides, spirit supports, and desire obeys. Tyrants may appear powerful on the outside, but internally they are miserable. Think of someone who chases fame, wealth, or control at the expense of relationships or health. They may seem successful at first, but they're inwardly trapped. True harmony, Plato argues that true happiness comes from harmony within, reason, virtue, and self-control. Justice is personal, not just social, and is the foundation of fulfillment. At the end of all this, we have Book 10, where he tackles two big themes, art and the immortality of the soul. Plato critiques art as imitation, and it represents appearances, not truth. While movies, music, and novels can move us, he warns that they can also mislead, keeping us focused on illusions instead of reality. He also asserts that the soul is immortal, and our choices, whether just or unjust, matter beyond our immediate life. Plato tries to remind us that living justly is not for personal satisfaction only. And he's trying to say that it shapes the soul and the legacy we leave behind. It's a call to live intentionally, guided by virtue, even in small daily actions. So, why does the Republic still matter today? Well, its questions are timeless. What is justice? How shall we live? Who should lead? And importantly, how to miss illusions? And most importantly, how can we see truth amid illusions? Plato reminds us that we are all prisoners of our own case. However, by cultivating wisdom, aligning our souls, and acting justly, we can keep stepping into the light. However, by cultivating wisdom, aligning our souls, and acting justly, we can step into the light. The Republic is not really a manual. It's a mirror of the human soul. So, which part spoke to you most? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you want to explore Plato in depth, I would suggest grabbing a book which I have linked in the description below. And if you want to explore Plato in depth, I would suggest getting the book which I have linked in the description below. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Remember that wisdom isn't just learning, it's living in harmony with yourself. See you in the next adventure and keep your wonder habit.